UK game.
An up-and-coming player. Let's see what classes both of these players are bringing then. Rogue banned for GeorgeC. He has Warrior, Priest, and Druid. And Duncan has Druid, Rogue, and Paladin with his Priest taken away. And you're completely right when you say about GeorgeC being one of the best players, if not the best player in the UK. And I tipped him to win the Premiership this season, actually, when we started. I thought he was going to blow the competition out of the water after week 1 when he performed so well. And then I go on holiday for 2 weeks. I say holiday, I wasn't on holiday, I was doing something else. But he lost 2 games whilst I was away. And I came back and I was like, what the hell, George? I mean, I tweeted him.
Letting the casters down.
You're letting me down, letting the gingers down. It's ginger pride. So I'm not going to be biased towards gingers, because Duncan can also be a fantastic player to represent the UK in this community. So I'd be happy with either player winning and either player going home.
Yeah, Duncan's had it kind of rough this year. He just got knocked out of the finals of a big qualifier for another event recently. He got to the main event of the previous Premiership season and then lost.
Came fourth.
Different sort of setup last time as well. Lose 1 game, you could go out depending. They played half the top 8 off stream. This time they will all be here.
Yep.
So he's looking to just keep climbing that ladder, keep having people know who he is, and I think that's going to take long. But GeorgeC also been playing Trinity on this channel tomorrow.
Yes,
he has been. I think he's been going. You sort of think he's been getting older.
I think he's getting older. I don't know if we've seen him grow up at all. I mean, he's still a bit of a memester, isn't he?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with a bit of a meme.
That's true.
I've grown up many, many years ago.
You're still a living meme.
And I'm still a meme.
You are still a living meme. Well, we are going to start tonight's Hearthstone action off with game number 1, then Duncan versus GeorgeC. And we're going to have a Druid versus a Warrior going down. And mulligan options. And already that is a Skulking Geist that is available there, Lorinda, which, you know, is pretty good against Druid. You can get rid of some of those annoying 1-mana cards.
Like Earthen Scales.
Yes. I mean, Jade Idol is your usual target, but getting rid of Earthen Scales as well is going to be a nice addition.
Yeah, there is the Jade Idol. Just for a second, I wondered if there's some weird Duncan-ness going on. But Duncan's quite a... saying straightforward sounds insulting, but he's one of those players who plays the best decks and plays them well.
You say that, but he has been a bit hit and miss this season. He's turned up with a few, let's say, weird, like Control Shaman he brought 1 week, and it was really odd, and he lost because of it. And I was really surprised that that wasn't the Duncan that we had seen in previous seasons.
He's also finally... He's always been a little tiny bit salty behind the scenes, but he's tended to keep it much to himself and not really involve others. But he'd have a bit of a dig at Leroy after their match as well, earlier in the season.
Yeah.
He said that he believed, this is on Twitter, Leroy picked the letters out of a Scrabble bag until they spelled the names of decks.
Wow.
And that's the list that he brought.
Yeah.
So Duncan's sort of got a little bit more edge than he used to have. And I think that's
Sounds
what
like
happens as you start getting better. You start expecting more of yourself, and when it goes wrong, you start getting saltier.
You say he's salty in the background. Look at all those spices as well in the kitchen. Like, clearly he's going to be dishing something hot up later.
Yes, it's like as spicy as the food looks like in the background. It does look good.
So George then bringing this Control Warrior variant. We have seen George bring a Control Warrior before. This kind of Arcane Giants, Blood Razor kind of situation. This one has the Skulking Geist, so perfect matchup now for George. If you wanted to queue into anything, queuing into Druid is pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you draw the Geist on your opening hand, of course. Knowing George, there might even be 2 in there. He goes pretty hard when he does play tech cards.
Yeah.
And I actually feel that's a slight weakness of George's is... I mean, if you give him a deck and give every other player in the country the same deck, he's probably the best player in the country. But I think one of his weaknesses is that he's not necessarily willing just to suck it up and play the best stuff. So sometimes he'll play a bad deck really well and still lose. We saw that in HGG a couple of times with Freeze Mage.
Yeah, that was probably a hard time for George on the global stage, playing the deck that he is known for and not being able to perform as well as maybe he would have expected. I say that, he did perform well, he just didn't get the right
This is what I mean, I don't think George needs to show us how good he is at the game, he just needs to win things.
Yeah.
We know how good he is, but after a while, being good isn't enough, you've got to actually win something. So if George would just play the best decks and kill everybody, I'd be a lot happier.
And so, plan for George, of course, I mean, that Skulking Geist is 100% going to be coming down soon. You want to get rid of those Jade Idols straight away, but then he just needs the tools to be able to remove those big Jades when they do come, because there are still plenty of means in Duncan's deck to produce Jade cards. They can still get pretty large. I mean, to what, 7-7, 8-8 without Jade Idols anyway. Aya being one of the big reasons for that. But it looks like George is going to want to remove what's on the board first before thinking about this, guys.
Yeah, he's going to get his card draw, find out what he's doing, etc., etc. Interesting spot about Duncan here is he's normally a very methodical.
Yep.
Does that mean slow?
Yep.
Player.
Yep.
I just want to be polite because he might watch this later and get upset. But he's been playing this really quickly. He's been playing this at George's pace. Now, his turns have been fairly straightforward, but Duncan tends to even make straightforward turns take a while. He's planning future turns, that sort of thing. He's one of those, a bit like me, very sort of slow, methodical players.
Well, he's got dinner to make later, so he wants to get through this. I think there's some Milky Bar buttons down there on his sofa as well. I'm not sure. I will have to ask him later, but a strong play if they are Milky Bar buttons, because whilst other chocolates are available, they're some of my favourites now.
Is that because you look like Milky Bar kid?
A little bit, yeah. I think since I've had the glasses edition,
yeah,
certainly
exactly.
there. Medivh being picked up from the Dirty Rat, I guess that's a both good and bad situation for Duncan. He gets a free 7-7 on the board, and that's certainly a lot of power that he can hammer into George's face. However, it means he won't get the Atiyesh later.
Yeah, and he was about to start going a bit crazy with Atiyesh, but maybe this is fine. It's like you say, it's a lot of damage. His problem here, this is why he's thinking about this one. If you Wrath and hit the 3-3 in, you make George blow the weapon if he wants to execute. If you bump in with the Medivh, then the execute doesn't even need to be... Sorry, the weapon doesn't even need to be procced. And those weapon charges are so valuable in this warrior deck for your card draw. You can see the battle rages there as well, ready to do that. So, difficult choice here for Duncan. And this is the methodicalism that I was talking about earlier.
Finally coming through. And, I mean, there was two options. It was going to be a 7-7 either way. Was it going to be Kuhn or was it going to be Medivh? So, regardless of which was drawn, George was going to be facing a lot of pressure. There is an execute in hand though, so it means he does have the means to deal with this 7-7 on board, but already taken down to 16 health. And sometimes when you do play a control warrior, a warrior that likes to gain armor, when you get a little bit low, you do start searching for those cards, those armor smiths, to try and get a little bit of armor, try and get out of range of any crazy shenanigans from your opponent.
Yeah, looking at that previous turn again, just way on about that, is getting rid of that Wrath. He's going to have a handful of cards the whole game. You're never cycling that Wrath. So. But yeah, he has got to... George, this is... Oh dear. That's got to hurt. I've got to get that armor sooner rather than later. This
is the thing. It hurts, but at the same time, all of Duncan's tools to really build a massive board are just being taken away. The Skulking Geist is going to take the Jade Idols away, so we're not going to see any huge Jades being produced. And now both Kuhn going and Medivh going, they are two more tools to produce big old boards. So Duncan, whilst he does have two ultimate infestations in his hand, which I'm sure he won't mind too much, he is running out of options in terms of his late game.
Yeah, and he doesn't know it. Like, he'll know that he knows George. George has played Skulking Geist in every weird deck he's brought so far, so he'll know that is there, but you never know how far to push it when you're the Druid. Like, there's a good chance he's only playing one, and there's a good chance in the bottom half of his deck. Like, maybe a 50-50 it's in the bottom half, because that's how numbers work.
Is it?
Kind of what half means.
Yeah, just about. That is how numbers work. But it's all well and good George removing all of these threats. It's his win condition, really. Is it just fatigue in this kind of matchup?
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of debating. I mean, in this particular matchup, I've only played on the Druid side rather than the Warrior side. So I only know that you just really need to get a big board at some point, hope there isn't the removal, and hope that you can just bash down your opponent. I would assume now for George, he is just playing a game of remove, 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 build up enough armor, outvalue my opponent, fatigue my opponent, and then hope I can win the game. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Except this Warrior deck is super hard to play with that Dead Man's Hand.
Yep.
You've got to try and... So the paradox of this, he's not here, but the paradox of this...
No, he didn't make it.
...particular deck is you want to reuse your good cards. So you want to save them for the Dead Man's. But you want to play your good cards, that's why they're in your deck. So you're trying to get by with the scraps as long as possible, and then reuse your stuff that's actually good with the Dead Man's later on.
So I'd presume this is the variant that has the Arcane Giants in as well? It might be. We've seen variants of Control Warrior that doesn't have the Arcane Giants in, it just goes for that fatigue plan, and we've seen those that do have the Arcane Giants in, because then it gives you an alternative win condition, right?
Yeah, the original versions played like 2 Dead Mans and then played 1 or 2 Arcane Giants and started playing hundreds and hundreds of Arcane Giants. Then we've seen versions with N'Zoth, which almost certainly this isn't, because we haven't seen anything that actually works with N'Zoth yet.
Yep.
And slowly but surely, people have been taking out the win conditions, realising, I just run them out of stuff. Just don't need a win condition, it's just occupying a slot.
Yeah, although Arcane Giants are pretty good win condition.
Yeah, I mean, they kill your opponent pretty quick.
I think we last saw George play this deck a couple of... Actually, it would have been week 1. And he played aggro. And when you play against aggro, this deck just does what it does. You just kind of outvalue your opponent, you get rid of everything, and then you tank up a load of armor and they concede. So,
Duncan has a win condition of Savage Roar if he does lose his Jade Idols here.
Okay.
Savage Roar, able to provide that shock victory. We've seen other players play it occasionally, but generally not played in Druid.
Yeah, well, usually when we see Savage Roar, it will be with those kind of hybrid Druids, right? That is running the token-based and the Mark of the Lotus, etc., etc. But we've not seen any of that yet from Duncan. It might be in there. I doubt it, though. I guess maybe a big spreading plague could be good for him, but I don't know if you're going to get a chance, unless we see those Arcane Giants later on, and then that spreading plague might be able to just build up a massive board and delay your inevitable death.
There's quite often only one Brawl in the Warrior deck as well, because you shuffle it back in if you feel you need it. Well, George may not feel he needs more than one Brawl, so he may end up blowing it a little early.
Speaking of win conditions as well, at least being there, that adds to the fatigue plan, adds to just gaining more cards and having more resources than your opponent.
Yeah, 5 random Undergoro cards can kill an empty board pretty well.
Yeah. Surprisingly well, actually. I think we were all a bit dubious when Elise was first released. Is it going to be any good? How good are the cards going to be? But although she's not stuck around too often in the meta, she has cropped up here and there, hasn't she?
Which is perfect. That's what you want from a card. You want it to turn up from time to time. You want everyone to know, oh, that's Elise, she does this, and not go onto ladder and just go, oh, turn 5. Turn 6. Yep. I don't want to see this card.
Similar to Skulking Ghost as well. It's turned up here and there. It was there for a reason. It was printed for a reason.
And similar to Ultimate.
Yeah. Ultimate Infestation.
What a card. How did you ignore it?
Sorry.
So it's getting towards decision time from George. He can do Sleep with the Fishes stuff.
Death is eternal.
At some point, you have to get that Garrosh online, but he still needs some more armor, maybe. It's going to be an interesting turn to see if he decides he doesn't need it, because this card's so powerful.
Yeah, very powerful card, and of course, you can deal quite a lot of damage to this board. In combination with Sleep with the Fishes, if you would like, but he may just save it here. I don't know if you necessarily need to.
There was no way at all here that
there we go,
Duncan could have positioned this. Because of the way those cards work, there's no way you can stick it in the middle. He would have known that was coming at some point.
Of course, the hero power does damage, doesn't it?
It does.
I may have overlooked that slightly.
Yeah, it's really good hero power. But now, of course, I mean, with that in mind, you've got double Ravaging Gore, the hero power, and Sleep the Fishes. You can do a lot of damage to the next board, and he still saved that Brawl and still hasn't played his Dead Man's Hand.
We've not actually seen much Jades really been played from Duncan either. I mean, he's still got, what, 2 Jade Spirits left in his deck, 2 Jade Behemoths as well. So there's still a possibility of getting these Jades rather large. Yeah, you get to 9 or 10 if you lose your Jade Idols. There's also... Yeah, that's it, 9 or 10. Yeah. Depending on exactly the makeup and how the IO goes and that sort of thing. Yeah, you've got your Jade Blossoms as well in there. I mean, it's not the end of the world losing Jade Idol. I have seen games won when Skulking Geist is just taken away. It's just like, okay, whatever. I think the key, though, is going to be that Savage Roar. Looking at Duncan's hand now, count the minions. It's running lower and lower all the time. And so he's going to try and get one board that gets wiped out by stuff, and then hope the next board sticks and get a sneaky Savage Roar for a lot of damage. Yeah, surprise lethals are always the best way. It happened to Duncan when he played against Hello Leroy. When he had made that tweet, Hello Leroy had a Secret Eater in his... an Eater of Secrets. In his Scrabble bag? Yeah, in his Scrabble bag. Quite clearly was targeting a particular mage deck from Duncan, and Duncan wasn't too happy when he saw a secret Eater of Secrets in every single deck of Hello Leroy's. That's just actually quite amusing. So double swipe is 8 damage. We've got to keep an eye on that as well. Remember the Maya Keeper now doubles up as a minion. It's not just a 3/3 for 4 that makes a mana, you know. Sometimes it actually makes a minion as well. So Duncan doesn't need to go very wide to get this Savage Roar to do a lot of damage. Maybe 3 minion board could be enough. But what he does need to be worried about is his own life total. He needs to both combat this board that is appearing now from GeorgeC, as well as building up one of his own, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, he's got lots of ways to clear stuff, but not that many ways to clear stuff and still have a decent hand, because George is going to start to outvalue him fairly soon.
I like this, though. I mean, you're not going to get much more value out of spreading Plague than 3 minions from your opponent when he's playing Control Warrior. So get them on the board, put something big behind it, hope it survives, and you can start trying to dominate this board.
George, a multitude of ways of dealing with this, of course, but the way he chooses will dictate how the game plays out. Again, he hasn't played his dead man's hand. He wants to shuffle in the good stuff, the stuff he wants to use again. He doesn't want to shuffle in the bad stuff, and we can see that he'd actually quite like to keep almost all of this.
Yeah, the big question will be whether those Arcane Giants will be in. We haven't seen any Armor Smiths yet, either. Any sort of armor generation that's potentially going to be in this deck. Still abilities to build up a board, though, from Duncan. This is the thing. George can clear all he likes, but he needs to be putting down threats, and his board, although his last turn his board looked somewhat threatening, but with all those whirlwind effects in the end, he's only left with a slightly unappealing board.
Yeah, Duncan needs to work out how much of this damage needs to go face. He's got 5 from the infestation. It can be a draw if you both do it at the same time with the infestation. He's got the 2 swipes. That's 13 to face. He's got a hero power that does 3 when there aren't annoying 2/6 taunts in the way. He needs to work out how much of this needs to go face and how much of it he can afford to waste on the minions to clear the way for his own minions.
And I think that's what he's having a little count of now as well. He's trying to decide, is there any world where I could just go for this? But swiping face would, of course, made quite a worryingly sized Tauren there. It would have been scary. Don't want to do any of that. So he's having to use both swipes just to get rid of this board.
Yeah, and interestingly, he could have done 4 to face with a swipe and bumped into the 2/6 with his
face.
And swipes with the other one. Swipe the 2/6 and the 2 wands from the swipe would have killed the thing. But he didn't want to take 2. He didn't want to get 1 extra point through for the sake of taking 2. He's actually defending his own health total here.
Which is Duncan in a nutshell, really. Quite a defensive player, quite a player who... He doesn't want to take too many risks.
He's playing against Control Warrior, and he's still playing very carefully because George has shown that he can put some pressure on.
And you know, we were talking about how Duncan's still going to get some big Jades. There's a big game hunter there for GeorgeC as well. So if it's a matter of single target elimination, GeorgeC is doing all right. He's got an Execute still there, big game hunter still there. He's got his Dead Man's Hand. He could shuffle both of those back in if he wants. Brawl there available as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because the big game hunter is obviously there for the leftover Jades.
Yes.
Which is really weird, right? Because you think that if you get rid of the idol, that's enough. George is like, no, I really want to beat Jade. And he's read it right. He's got the matchup he wanted. He somehow predicted that Duncan will queue up Druid first. George is good at the mind games. That is a thing that he's good at. Most people randomise, George does not.
I'm trying to think back to last week and whether we saw Duncan start with Druid. We may have, but my memory may be letting me down slightly. So there's something in that. GeorgeC potentially doing some research.
Wow.
I doubt it. I genuinely, I think George is quite a busy man at the moment. He's got the Trinity series as well. I don't know how much he would have looked into this matchup. It could just be a luck of the draw. Or he's going against everything I'm saying, and he's actually done some research on Duncan, and if he has, then credit to that man, because money is money.
And we'll never know, because now he's going to tweet that he researched all week.
Yeah, exactly. Try and make himself look good.
Time passes.
He has been saying all week that he's going to lose.
Yeah.
Not a particularly confident young man, it would seem. I feel like it might just be a bit
we talk about the same GeorgeC?
Yeah, I think he's just playing up to the cameras, as it were.
Notice that he wanted to shuffle all that removal back into his deck. He's been saving that Brawl, he's been saving those sleeps all game. He's had the Dead Man's Hand all game to do it, but he waited till he got the big game hunter, he waited till he got the Execute and the pack. He's just shuffled all of that stuff back into his library, and all he's going to draw now from now to the end of the game is removal. And he's managed to sneakily get up to 24 in the process, which is key, because Duncan was sort of building up a bit of damage here and there.
And the issue is for Duncan now is, yeah, okay, he's getting bigger Jades, but there's still the removal there for George.
Duncan is not going to, I mean, you're not going to be happy any time you see this, but if he sees the big game hunter here, Duncan is going to not be at all impressed.
We
not the sort of person to be impressed.
We might see another tweet.
Another tweet.
About Scrabble letters.
B, G, and H coming out of the Scrabble bag.
So Brawl, the obvious play to start.
I want the 8-8 to win this, but I want to see them.
Perfect result for him. Yeah, it would have been nice to see a reaction of the big game hunter coming down, but there will still be a chance. I think there's at least another Jade or two that can come out from Duncan. And the thing is, he's going to have time to do it as well. There we have it.
It's going to happen, Dan.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
There's not enough on the board now for a brawl from George.
Duncan's thinking, has he got the execute? Can he execute my 9-9? No, you can just kill it, mate.
There's no harm in showing it either. Do you go for the 50-50? I guess he's thinking, what other minions are there for this to even happen?
If you're not impressed now, Duncan.
But of course, George being George wins that 50-50 as well.
One card left for Duncan. I'm hoping it's a Jade. Because I'm a horrible man. It's not, and Duncan's only chance now is to hit 3 to face a few times before he fatigues to death. Be interesting if George actually has to play this big game hunter as a 4-2, because there's nothing else for it to do.
Well, yeah, you look for cards first, right? Look for options. Surely, Elise must give you something here.
Actually, yeah.
Be annoying enough, Pyros as well.
But a pretty bad pack there in general.
In terms of, like, earlier when you were saying about removing a board,
yeah,
this ain't doing anything to remove a board.
He's just hurting himself.
He is hurting himself, and is there any danger of him? All right, then. What? What? Why?
Making room for second pack.
Yeah, but
he decided that pack just wasn't good enough.
Okay, is he taking stuff off the board because of a second spreading plague? Potentially. I'm just trying to think of the reasoning why you wouldn't leave minions on the board that deal damage.
I think he's just trying to empty his hand, but yeah.
Yeah, but if you empty your hand, you leave them on the board, right?
Get rid of the plague. I think you're right, he's only seen one plague.
As much as George is a showman, there must be a reason behind that, so yeah.
Yeah, it's the plague.
Yeah.
He's playing around plague into Raw,
It's the plague.
Time passes.
Did you have to say that back in the day when the plague was around?
No, everybody just died.
Okay. Makes sense. I'm glad you survived it.
Thank you. I am too. Although sometimes I wonder.
If you actually survived.
No, if I actually am happy about it.
Duncan having to concede in the end, George's game plan working out perfectly, fatiguing down the Jade Druid. The Skulking Guy's doing its job, getting rid of those Jade Idols, and all of the tech decisions working out well for George, who goes 1-0 up in this series. We didn't get to see a particularly salty Duncan just yet.
Just yet.
But we might see another Skulking Geist later on, for example, because it happens quite a lot when you target a particular deck. You will put that one card in many decks, like we saw of Eater Secrets, for example.
I feel that was just targeting the Druid, though, because the Priest is banned.
Yep.
Sometimes the guy sort of has a secondary effect against Priest. He gets rid of a couple of those 1-drops, just makes life a little bit hard, takes away the one-turn kill. But, nah, he just got the matchup he wanted there, got it over with. And I don't know how much more tech we'll see. I think George just relied on getting that matchup. And, of course, by opening with Warrior, he's more likely to get that matchup at some point.
Yeah. How much of the show have you watched? Have you seen my bell?
I have seen it once or twice, but I don't like to talk about it in public.
So this is the banter bell.
Oh, that bell. Sorry.
This one. Now, there is a rule every week that I hit it when someone says something stupid or funny. So with Darrock, whenever he said Toast Muncher rather than Toast Monster, I'd hit it. So what would you like your word to be? That every time you say something stupid or repetitive...
I mean, I say by the way a lot.
By the way?
And chat, you know,
all right, then.
I say it like 12 times, by the way.
This is a good way. This is a good way of eliminating it as well from your casting. Because now I'm going to alert you every time you say it. And you might be well aware of saying it.
Right. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Saves me watching back the stream, so I don't have to watch you.
Yeah. Good on you.
Right.
Did you see me dressed as a woman last week?
I did.
Yeah, you know. That was worth watching.
Okay, if you say so.
I mean, I know me.
Check the VODs, guys.
Yeah, watch it every week.
Skin dressed up for Halloween.
It reminded me of that time that you dressed up as
a caster,
the guy from Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
Wait, on one of your streams.
Doc Brown.
Doc Brown.
I did.
That was one of my favourite streams ever.
I did do that. I remember that.
Yeah, we know you try to be a caster, but.
So Duncan not going for the Crazed Alchemist here because he's saving it in case there's a Doomsayer in the deck. Could have just on the switcheroo, take out the troublesome Northshire Cleric. George playing the Giant Wasp. Do you like the Giant Wasp tech, Gaskin?
I think it's... the good thing about the Giant Wasp is, A, works, right? It's there for a reason. It can be annoying, but my funniest thing about Giant Wasp is when you play it, the amount of players that hover over it and read the card when you play it on ladder is hilarious, because they're just like, what the hell is it? Oh, it's that one.
I actually sent out a tweet a while ago where someone hovered over it and then instant conceded, even though it was like turn 4 against Rogue.
So either they were saying, I can't believe this guy's playing this card, or they were saying, no, there's no way I can beat that.
I feel sorry for this guy who can only afford Giant Wasps. But no, the main reason for the Giant Wasp is because Rogue started playing more and more mid-range options, sort of 5-mana 8/8s. Pretty good, I heard. They started playing Stormwatchers, stuff that Priest found hard to deal with. And Giant Wasp is just a slow Shadow Word death. And as you can only play one of each card, it's just an extra solution to those turns 5, 6, and 7 before you get Anduin and ruin everyone's party.
I hate ruining parties. Actually, no, I don't. I love it. George there opting just to go with the heal as well, draw a card. Of course, he could have coined out Wasp if he was really worried about this board building up, but I think he's more inclined of keeping this coin in case he draws any removal a little bit later as like a panic button. He's got the Soul Priest, so he just needs the other half. The Circle of Healing would be fantastic off the top. Of course, looking for that Dragonfire Potion a little bit later can always be handy against Paladin too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Against the faster decks, and Paladin is one of those, the Priest doesn't really need its combo. It just needs to kill everything.
Yeah.
And then the combo will eventually happen, but there's no hurry. Interesting that George is playing Lyra. He's banning out Priest, so Gadget-san is less important, although some people do play both now.
And there we are, Circle of Healing picked up as well from the Shadow Visions. So you've got your combo. You can now eliminate the board whenever you see fit, as long as, of course, it's less than 4 health.
Yeah, which isn't going to be the case necessarily here.
Yeah, that Blessing of Kings could be a little bit of a nuisance.
Yeah,
However,
you don't want to mess around here. The Priest just clears your board too often, so you've definitely got to play the Blessing of Kings while you get the chance. The reason that Priest is so good in this matchup is, in my opinion anyway, although Priest is definitely not that great in this matchup.
Yeah.
If you ask Jumbo.
Yeah.
Someone's just sat there with a handful of Blessing of Kings and just other buffs, and you just can't get anything done. So play it while you can is a good option.
And so if he's going to put it on anything, the 2/3 of course makes sense, because then you can trade into the Radiant Elemental and you can still survive a Soul Priest plus Circle of Healing. However, it's whether Duncan's going to be playing around that. Soul Priest plus Circle of Healing isn't in every Priest at the moment. It's in some of them.
Yeah.
Let me think.
Yeah, Priest decks, it's interesting. There's probably 26 cards or 25 that people are happy with. And then there's so many strong options that people do mess around with the other slots. Shadow Word Horror is starting to be removed from Priest decks now. People just deciding that combo was just too tedious. And putting in other stuff. And this is some of the other stuff. I've seen Crane, a player notorious for hating his tech cards, is playing Lyra and Gadget-san. Well, one of those is a tech card. Of course, you don't need 2 of them.
Yeah, of course.
So people are messing around with Priest a lot.
And who'd have thought when it's Highlander, when you've got one of everything, of course it's going to be able to have those tweaks. Unfortunately, the Blessing of Kings did kind of make that an awkward turn for GeorgeC. He wasn't able to play the Soul Priest plus Circle of Healing because it would have done very little to the board, actually.
I remember he doesn't know what the secret is, so...
Correct.
If it's no
so for all he knows,
it's just a mess.
Yeah, and for all he knows, it could be one could be a redemption, and then you're only getting rid of 1 minion for quite a big combo in this matchup, to be honest.
This is really difficult for Duncan because Priest, with 5 mana available last turn with a coin, can do a lot of stuff. He's got to expect Dragonfire Potion here. George has had a really bad opening from where Duncan sat, at least. So Duncan won't want to commit much to this board because Dragonfire Potion is so obviously in George's hand here. I mean, it actually isn't, but...
Especially he's kept the coin as well. You always presume, right?
Yeah.
You've always got to just expect the worst.
And yeah, I mean, when your opponent's done nothing, he's got to have something in his hand, and Dragonfire Potion's a massive part of that, and he can coin that out next turn. And yeah, this explains Duncan's play here. He's just done nothing at all to make sure that Dragonfire Potion can't wipe him out.
I mean, yeah. The thing is, he could have played the Scale Bang if there wasn't a Giant Wasp on the board, because he could have said, yeah, all right, Dragonfire Potion, whatever, I've got a dragon.
Sure.
But the Wasp is like, nope, I can deal with that, and then I can use the Dragonfire Potion. So it makes it, yeah, a very hard turn for Duncan. But there is no Dragonfire Potion.
That's the sting in the tail.
There is a Soul Priest and Circle of Healing if he needs it. But this board isn't particularly threatening.
No, it's not, but from where George is sat, he may expect buffs, especially how long Duncan took over the last turn. How often does Paladin have nothing on turn 5? So Mega Saw would be an option that could be in hand there. George is going to tidy it all up. Again, doesn't need the combo to win the game, so can afford to just use the Mind Blast to clear the board. And this is why. Look how good this hand would be if there were actually things on the board.
Yeah, it would start to get a little bit scary. So now you could just play Sunky Pitarium if you wanted to, but then you're buffing him up to your opponent's Pyromancer to a 3/3. Alternatively, Inquisitor plus Scalebane, I think, is your only other option.
Yeah, I mean, next turn you're probably playing Curator, and then the turn after you will want to play a Bone Mare, though you might not get the chance. So just stick stuff out there, otherwise you're not playing this stuff till turn 9, by which turn, if you haven't hurt your opponent, you've lost.
Yeah.
Greater Healing Potion, not always played in Priest. A lot of people do not play this card, and it's going to be so useful here for George.
Yeah, again, we can go back to that conversation of Priest just having so many interchangeable cards. I've seen a lot of Greater Healing Potion lately, and I guess that's just for the aggro tech, of course. It's also another card that can work in conjunction with Lyra in like panic situations. Yep. So I can understand its play. But now for George, if he wants to get rid of the whole board, is there a way of doing it with Soul Priest and Circle of Healing?
Kazaka's 1-mana spell, Soul Priest Circle.
How high can our voices get?
I hate to think.
Yeah, no.
We've already tried that one.
We've already
tonight.
tried that. We already saw how high yours got and how incredibly low mine was.
That was very low.
It felt like I was like a 13-year-old again, my voice breaking for the first time.
12, by the way. Oops. So...
It did it by itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Halloween was last week.
So now Curator is the... Yeah, I think Curator is pretty obvious here.
Yeah, you've got Bone Mare Tidecaller next turn at least. Still got Tarim hanging about. Some more stuff.
And speaking of stuff, George is running out of said stuff.
He is.
He could probably do with some things to help with his Lyra. I guess that is a thing, a Shadow of Pain. But
just going to point out he has lethal, Greater Healing Potion, then ping his own face. Get the job done.
Yep. Just kill yourself off. Do it now. Because, of course, Greater Healing Potion doesn't work on an opponent's face.
It doesn't work on your opponent's face, no.
Found that out the hard way. Who was it who found that out the hard way? Can't remember, some average caster, wasn't it?
Don't know.
Yeah.
No idea at all what you're talking about. But I think 3 different casters made a similar mistake with different cards 3 weeks running. And I was one of those 3. I don't honestly remember which one I did. But it wasn't the Greater Healing.
No, it wasn't that one, definitely wasn't you. So George is just having to play Lyra here and hoping it will survive. And by the looks of it, it will.
Yeah, Paladin doesn't really have that much removal. It would have needed a combination of cards to take it down. Yeah. I can't even think of it.
I mean, you could have removed it with like a Crazed Alchemist plus a True Silver.
Yeah, that sort of stuff,
like that.
Blade, etc. But not a lot else. Obviously, there's equality content. We know there are ways that Paladin can kill a 3/5. Before, you all write in. But in the real world...
You say write in, like they were going to write letters to ESL.
Like 1983
these casters, they did not
answers on a postcard.
You just get like loads of mail tomorrow to the office. Hate mail for Lorinda.
They can forward it to the sea. Right. Binding Heal as well as the Greater Healing Potion here. That goes so well with the Soul Priest, with the Lyra, and so Binding Heal doesn't get dropped very often.
But it is going to help just try and churn some stuff out now for George. Mind Vision as well, more low mana cost things that can help him search and get him... Oh wow, that's a Mind Control too.
That is indeed something you can get him, and it has.
It has. It's not looking too bad for George now. I mean, there is still a board that he has to worry about.
Yeah, he's got to be a little bit careful. This is where the best players really come into their own. He's not scared. He doesn't think he can die next turn, so he doesn't have to mess around with the healing. Instead, choosing to develop his board and save the healing for another turn.
And go for the 10 mana cost as well. Even though he doesn't have 10 mana next turn, he feels like he has enough means to survive until 10 mana. A lot of times in that situation, you would see people just go for 5 because you want to have something that can remove the board. But yeah, you're right, this is hard.
You want to summon 3 friendly, but only if the other half is any good. Which I didn't see and clearly wasn't. Oh,
summon a demon.
Demon and 8 damage, so... Excuse me, looking for a tempo swing there.
There's a War Leader there. War Leader plus Sunkeeper Tarim.
What Duncan
5, 8,
doesn't know is
11,
he needs to get it done this turn, because turn 10, he just loses his best minion, which is probably going to be some stop bite with Steed nonsense.
Yeah, I think the most he can do is, what, 15 with Sunkeeper plus Murloc War Leader?
Yeah, and because he can't kill him, he's got to take down the Lyra, because she will do untold damage if left to run right for a second turn.
Unspeakable things.
Yes.
Filthy things that even my parents wouldn't want to see.
It's gone straight through my list of quotations now. I've got nothing to say. I'm off.
Bye.
Done.
You've earned your money.
Yeah. I know.
So now for Duncan, he's trying to work out the best way of trying to keep a board,
Right.
but he's also worrying about his board being removed the following turn, as well as removing Lyra off the board. So there's a lot of decisions, so I'm not entirely surprised why he's roping here.
And he still hasn't seen that Dragonfire potion that he's thought was in the hand for
The entire game.
He's probably worked out it's not there, but of course now there's a chance that George has just drawn it.
So opting not to go for the Spike Ridge Steed. Now I thought he would, because I thought he would want something that would stick in case there was removal. But clearly he feels like doing damage, and doing damage now is very important.
Yeah, he's put enough damage into the face to set up lethal for next turn, even through a heal. And I mean, he's just hoping there's no Anduin at this point, and there isn't one.
And now George doesn't actually have a way to remove this. He's got his Greater Healing Potion. That can take him up to, what, 25?
Yeah, he can survive and then mind control next turn. That's the thing.
So that's a lot of taunt now for Duncan to get through. But he does have War Leader. He does have Sunkeeper Tarim.
He does.
So whilst I talk, I'm going to allow you to have a little count and see if there's a way of him breaking through this and get lethal. And that will be exactly what Duncan is having a little count for as well. Sunkeeper Tarim can make everything work. Crazed Alchemist can make a difference too.
Let me
Have
think.
you spotted anything that might be able to break through this, Neil?
No, not yet. I was leaving it to you. No,
I was giving you time.
Buffs with a War Leader does a lot, but it doesn't do enough. You've got to get through 15 points of health on this Kazakus alone. That's 28 you've got to do.
That gets through 5. Play War Leader, that can get through that 5, 8.
He just doesn't buff that
11.
much.
I think you're 2 off.
Move quickly.
Can you get the extra 2 with the Sunkeeper Tarim? No, because you can't get the Spike Ridge Steed down as well, because you're 12 mana, and that's not how numbers
I
work.
think you're 1 off, actually. So close. The War Leader allows you to get 6 through, and then you've got 7, 12, yeah.
But you know who spotted lethal there?
Who?
Chat.
Chat, probably, yeah. And there may have been, honestly, I'm trying to work it out. If there was anything with Sunkeeper Tarim, I don't think there was, because you would be bringing down your own minions.
But you could bring up the 1/3 after trading other stuff through.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was either, but I'm sure chat knows already. So we don't need to inform them.
Oh, there's Dragonfire Potion.
It is indeed.
Can Dragonfire plus Greater Healing keep you alive? Or do you Mind Control Tech this Bone Mare? I guess Mind Control Tech, just Mind Control. I guess you don't, because you're worried about Tarim?
You're worried, but it wasn't played last turn when there was a clear lethal on the board.
Was there?
I don't know, George probably saw one.
Oh, but now you can just play Tarim and you can win the game.
Yeah, you just win the game how you like here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 1 game apiece in Elimination Week.
Elimination Week indeed. And that's going to be something that we're going to have to pause and look back on. I certainly would like to do that myself. Those are always the good things. It's like doing Sudoku in the morning. Just a little bit of a lethal puzzle.
What's the morning?
Yeah, this is true. Saying that, aren't you on like weird Turkmenistan time or whatever you've been casting lately?
Where?
I don't know where it was. He's Pakistan or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I
I was out east. And
Out somewhere.
I'm always on weird time. I'm 40 years ahead of you time.
40? If you're lucky, more like 50. But a good victory for Duncan in the end. Do let us know, actually. Use the hashtag ESLPrem. Tweet us if you saw a lethal. I would love to know. I am one that I will always admit. I'll put my hands up and I'll say, I missed a lethal. I am human. If Duncan's going to miss lethal, then I'm happy to miss lethal.
That's fair.
Because he's a good player. And I'm a
Caster.
moderately average human being at everything. And I can't even get a bloody wire behind my back, let alone play a game of Hearthstone. Right, game number 3 then. It's tied up 1 apiece. So remember, loser goes home after this series. So we are going to see Priest now versus Le Rogue. And there is that Skulking Geist again. So as we assumed earlier, George had teched Skulking Geist into multiple decks just to try and beat the Druid.
I hate this. I hate Skulking Geist in Priest.
Why?
Because 2 of your best cards, the Smite and the Heal,
Okay.
are 1-drops. As well as your Powered Shield, which is another one.
Are you running Smite now?
Probably not.
Okay.
Which means you don't get the OTK in the mirror, but he has banned out the mirror, in fairness. But I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the Geist. Plus, I don't think you beat the Druid that way anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think the games go long enough for the Geist onto the Druid to really make enough difference. Obviously, it makes a difference. Obviously, it helps you out in some situations.
I think when it first came out, the Skulking Geist, it certainly was. Priest used it to beat Jade.
Yeah.
But then Jade learnt, actually, if we just play our Jade Idol as a Jade against Priest, in case they have one, then we can still win this matchup.
Yeah, and there's other stuff that the Priest can do. It can just make these wide boards with Kazakas and +4 and just smash the Druid in the face. And they're sat there with this 4/6 that blows up its own stuff in their hand. It's like, eh.
Now, we might have to see this silence here. And it looks like George's going to combine it with Power Word Shield as well, just to get a little bit of card draw, but it's the only way to get this fledgling off the board. And we know what a fledgling can do when it's let out of control, when it's let out of the cage.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Duncan's got in this build here. We already see the Cairn here. Oh my goodness. Be interesting to see if he is going to go for the Stormwatcher build, because that's really good against Priest.
Interesting. So he has seen how George had to use a silence to remove his fledgling. Right. So he's saying, I can return this and I can combine it with Edwin and get a pretty scary board going.
He did have the option that some people do, and I don't like, to make a 4/4 Edwin here. But just make it as big as possible, because you eat up those big removals. Most of the time they can only kill Shadow of Death, maybe a Wasp. Even a Dragonfire is not enough. Just eat up that mid-game removal I was talking about earlier.
Wind Fury's stealth would be perfect for Duncan now. We can avoid this Wasp. And he gets none of the above. I guess you go for can't be targeted.
Yeah, then make them have the Shadow of Death for your Edwin. I like it.
And either then they have to make the choice of I kill a 6/6 or I kill a 3/6 that might become a 9/9 later on.
Yeah.
So many options.
I guess it's worth bearing in mind that you could just health it, as he's already used a Pain. It's the same sort of deal.
Yep, that's definitely true. Is there any other way of dealing with it?
And then that builds up your health, and then your next turn, if you do get another hit in with it, maybe you can get things out of range. But yeah, he does go for the original thought here. And this damage is already getting pretty tasty, with a Cairn still to come.
And the +3 health, because Duncan has already seen the Soul Priest as well, maybe there is more reason taking the +3 health because of those possible removal options that can come out. And the fact he's got a coin that he can coin into Dragonfire Potion.
This guy's toast.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of deliberation there. Maybe there could have been other choices.
What George doesn't want to do here, but probably has to, is use this coin.
Yeah, well, I think he... Does he have to? Maybe.
That's what he's going to spend his whole turn working out. His instinct play, the obvious play, the play that everyone at home can make, is coin into Dragonfire and kill the enemy with the Wasp. And he'll probably end up doing that, but he's going to try to work a different way of doing it, because if he can play that Dragonfire on curve, not only will he kill one more minion, but he'll be able to coin Anduin on 7, which is the Bone Mare turn from his opponent.
So you were saying earlier that George is one of these players that knows when he's not going to die and he takes risk, and if he plays this Raza, then that will definitely play into that as well. He's saying, I'm okay for now. I don't see how he's going to be able to deal this amount of damage.
He really doesn't want to do this. You can see him messing around with the Raza there, but just clearing it up. One way to stop Bone Mare is to put no minions on the board. And now he's going to wish that he went the other way, because Cairn's going to hit play, and George hasn't got the silence in hand.
See, Duncan just shook his head because he drew patches, but we're far enough into the game now where, like, it doesn't matter that you've drawn patches, right? You're going to draw that card at some point in the game.
Surrender.
Yeah, Duncan's a Hearthstone player. He likes everything to go his way all of the time.
So this bone mare is going to get its value, and that's why Ken is so good on 6, right? Because you have the possibility of something surviving to plop bone mare onto.
Plop it onto. We're making Duncan out to be an old misery guts, by the way. He's done a lot for the Hearthstone scene in this country. Obviously, has the meltdown bar that he hosts, and several of the players in this tournament have come up through that meltdown bar. Players like Cold Hands, those sort of guys, just ting ting.
Yep.
Turned up here, Ben, because they would go to meltdown and get regular play. So, you know, Duncan might look a bit miserable when he's losing games of Hearthstone, but he's actually doing a lot for the community.
But Duncan is one of these players that is miserable when he's losing games of Hearthstone, but then he will say afterwards, and he'll have a laugh and a joke, and he'll make a joke about himself as well. He knows he's miserable.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Most miserable people do.
Yes, like yourself.
Yes.
You are potentially the most miserable man I've met.
Thank you.
Ever. However, I still love you, so
cheers. That's so nice. A tear would have come to my eye if I cared.
If you weren't such a miserable old sod.
Indeed. Right, Duncan's going to hit some damage into the face and try and do it all again and hope his opponent hasn't got Anduin, or hope he can kill him before Anduin. This goes back to what I was talking about on turn 5 with that coin. This is the turn where having to use that coin is so much of a nightmare. This is what George was trying to avoid when he considered playing Raza instead of the coin Dragonfire.
Shadow Vision search for Shadow of Death. There it is. Right on time.
As if it grew there.
And suddenly a very scary board becomes a somewhat average board.
And Duncan doesn't shake his head. I mean, I'd be shaking my head at that one.
Yeah.
Hope you like my invention.
I think you expect it, don't you? Oh, there's a Shadow of Pain. I thought we'd already seen a Shadow of Pain. You liked me. Oh, Leroy Jenkins off the top. 6, 11, 12. Can't do anything just yet. But that is another way of injecting some damage right into GeorgeC's backside.
This is a turn you hate. I think you end up playing the Spellbreaker here because it's a way around the Anduin if it's played. You've got two choices. You can just go all in and hope they don't have it, which might not be the worst option. It's only about 50-50 looking at the hand size. Or you tidy up and you play Spellbreaker. If you do that, you have to kill the 1-1 as well.
Yeah, I think you use patches, run into the 5-1, then use your face to kill off the 1-1, use Spellbreaker, go face.
Yeah.
I think that's all right.
But also, if you choose to go with Kobold Scalebane and clear up and set up lethal and hope it's not there, I get it. And that's why he's leaving that decision till last.
Too soon.
Wow.
What?
Oh dear.
What? Why?
Because he wasn't sure which way he was going to go, so he made sure he killed the big minion first, and then he's realised, hang on, the numbers don't add up here, my bone mare, yeah, just one of those things. 4 extra damage that wasn't really.
Yeah.
But the theme's right, and the extra damage really isn't that relevant. It's a little bit relevant because George is about to start shooting stuff at him.
Yeah, I mean, we will be able to count if 5 damage is relevant. It's relevant because it's just something that shouldn't have happened, really.
Of course.
But it's just a case of, yeah, as you said, second-guessing yourself a little bit.
But it does show the only thing on Duncan's mind is killing George before certain criteria are met. And oddly enough, that criteria isn't getting to 0 health yourself. It's much earlier than that, when you're effectively dead to this sort of nonsense that's about to happen.
But is there any way that Duncan can get any sort of lethal next turn? No.
There's not. The only chance he may have here is if he's playing Stormwatcher, which seems really unlikely because we've seen no Commander, we've seen no Argent Squire, we've seen none of the stuff that go in that deck. Sometimes a priest has to just keep taking care of your minions if you're the rogue in that situation.
Cold Blood, I guess, would be nice if Duncan's running the Cold Blood as well.
Yeah, there's still outs, I guess.
In conjunction with Leroy Jenkins.
But now George is going to get this Spirit Lash down.
And if he does have a Cold Blood, then he can win this game. Unless, well, yeah. Never mind. Spirit Lash is coming down. Ignore everything I said for the past 20 seconds. Listen to Lorinda.
Still not all over.
No, he's still not. He's not out of the woods just yet. I think you may have to use Soul Priest plus Circle of Healing here if you really want to.
Yeah, we'll play Doomsday if you want to admit you could have gained an extra health.
Yep.
Darkness speaks to me.
Yeah, because there'd be no difference really Doomsayer being 7 or 6, right?
Exactly. So he could have just put that down, but yeah. He doesn't want to admit that, so he goes this way. This is better. This occupies the board. Joking.
And if there was any Cold Bloods as well, they've just been removed from the deck of Duncan.
Duncan's still able to keep the damage coming, though.
Yeah, Bone Mare plus deckhand.
And this is why that version of Argent Commander and such like is so hard for Priest now. Priest just about hangs on in general against Rogue. It's just favoured. But you can see the damage Duncan's putting in. Duncan definitely can still win this game of Hearthstone. If this had the extra 4 attack minions in, it's just over. Duncan just wins that one. As it is, he's still in a good spot though, but George has saved this organized circle for a long time. But Leroy Jenkins' Cold Blood is looming.
No Cold Blood though, so the Skulking Dice has just come out, right?
Yes.
So we won't see that happening. However, he is down to just 8. Now, Greater Healer Potion would be the death of Duncan, I would have thought, now at this point.
Death of Duncan sounds like a really bad Shakespeare play.
Or a really good one, depending on how much you hate Duncan.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure everyone has enemies.
I mean, you're picking up the scissors when you say that from the desk in front of us.
Don't tell the viewers.
Sorry, viewers.
I'm plotting my revenge against Duncan. He ruined my playing career.
Really?
No.
I didn't know you had a playing career.
Exactly. I think I lost to Modern Leper once. That was enough.
That's a pretty good result.
Well, losing.
Better than all the other people you lost to.
Wait, who else did I lose to?
Everyone else.
Shadowy
Oh,
thoughts.
I got quite far, actually. Insomnia.
Don't know what that is. Anyway.
Removal now for George. And he does have ways to remove the entire board.
This is one of the things, again, talk about the Rogue versus Priest matchup. George has done more than 21 damage to stuff. But he's never had the opportunity to just start launching at the face. And, yeah.
Just like to point out, if Duncan had sent patches to the 5-1 and then used his face to go to George's face, he would have lethal next turn. But that would have mean leaving a Novice Engineer up, which he didn't want to do, so...
Ouch. Duncan can't do it.
Nope.
Can he live?
Nope.
He can take the Shadow Word Pain off the board by killing the 3-1.
Or you can concede. Bottom right, buddy, was the decision for Duncan.
That was the correct decision.
So, yeah, we can track our minds back to that a bit. Was taking the Novice Engineer off the board important? And if so, why was it important? You remember he had the option, he took the 5 damage to face.
It was important at the stage where he still had the 3-3.
Yeah.
Because the 1-1 would have traded into the 3-3 and then it could have been pinged. But I think by the time he made the decision, the 3-3 had done something else.
Again, something else.
Remember.
Look back off. He did take 5 damage unnecessarily. That definitely,
He definitely
is a thing
took an
which
extra
might
4.
have given him
It might,
enough
you
time.
know. It might. He needed one more turn. He took an extra 4. He would have been on 12 there. 7, 9, 11. I think he was still dead. But then taking a Shadow Word Pain out of play may have helped. But I think he was still dead.
Who knows? GeorgeC now 1 game away from winning this series and knocking out Duncan. Reminder, Duncan finished 4th last season in the Premiership. He got to the finals. He was looking actually incredible last season. He looked unstoppable. But then we got to those live finals. He just fell apart. His decks that he brought just didn't work for the meta on the day.
Yeah, he was very surprised by that meta as well. He wants another go to show that he did it right and it worked out wrong. And he's going to have to win these next 2 games if that's going to be the case.
And now I will accept a Patch's eye roll. All right?
Sure.
Yeah, this is annoying. You've just lost the game. You feel a little bit hard done by, and then Patches comes crawling into your hand just to be a nuisance.
Yeah.
Just to make your day worse. That's what he does.
You can't see his eye roll though because he's wearing patches.
Heh. Does Patches wear patches? No, he doesn't.
Oh, he's got so many eyes.
Just
Maybe he wears one,
Maybe.
like most pirates.
Yeah, but it's like on his back or something.
Yeah.
With his 11th eye.
Sure. Back to the game of Hearthstone. And Duncan needs to build a board. We're going to say that a lot tonight, by the way. Building board is bigger than
Except by the way.
ever. So did you?
Yeah, but I'm allowed to say it.
Why? You didn't tell me that rule.
Because I'm gonna... whatever. We're gonna fall out.
No. It's never going to happen. Okay, so I don't speak now.
How big can he make this Edwin then, and does he do it? Shadow step back the deckhand, then play the deckhand, then coin out Edwin.
Yeah, you See George shaking his head. He knows what's coming.
George's eye rolls are off the chart this series.
This is going to be one giant Edwin. And what do we know about Druids? Druids are really bad at killing big things. They're good at putting taunts in the way, but not yet.
Yeah, Spreading Plague can come down on 6 just to delay a little bit.
Yeah, one thing that often happens with these massive Edwins is they actually don't get through, and it looks like the opponent has like weathered the storm. And then you realise they haven't done anything but lose cards for 3 turns in a row. And then all the stuff that looks unthreatening now, like deckhands and SI7s and Cairns, just finish off the job unchallenged.
Yeah.
I mean, on this occasion, it may just go all the way with the Edwin.
Yeah, I mean, if Spreading Plague is going to come out here, it is just going to be 1 on the board.
Yeah, Duncan trading off that 1-1, not using his hero power there, playing around the Spreading Plague, really nicely sequenced or sorted, or whatever word you want to use. And this is that situation I was talking about where Edwin just starts to munch through resources.
He can just send another 10 to face as well here using the deckhand, and the SI7 agent along with his own face, and once again playing around that Spreading Plague Neil.
Yeah. And from nowhere, George is down to 7.
Forced to play Spreading Plague, can combine it with Mark of the Lotus, and then kill off this fledgling with the 3-3 that will become a 4-4.
Yep. And may well do that.
I think you have to. Well, yeah, you do have to. You have to play Spreading Plague, without a doubt. Otherwise, you are just dead. So that's a guaranteed. But is the Mark of the Lotus that important in the grand scheme of things? I guess keeping a minion alive to have the possibility of even killing off Edwin eventually probably is pretty important.
Yeah, it does seem important.
And I guess when your back's against the wall so much now, why not? What's the worst that can happen? You lose the game, a game that you're probably going to lose anyway. Okay.
So he's saying, I want 2 of them.
Yep. He's saying one of these he's saying the fledgling can't get through one of these taunts, right?
And if it can, I'd have lost anyway.
Yes. And he's just, for George now, as many druids do, they hope they get to turn 10. And that's going to be the game for George, is can I play my ultimate infestation? Duncan does have to get through 2 of these now. Do you hit the fledgling in as well?
I don't think you do, because you've got Bone Mare next turn.
If you hit the fledgling in now, it means you could use the fledgling again next turn if you wanted to. Alternatively, your opponent could swipe, and then that will be punished.
Swipe looks really naughty, but if he swipes, he's got to do something else, or you just kill him with the care. Maybe that's his thinking.
Many options.
It's not just a straightforward strategy decision. You actually get to count whether you win here. So maybe you can attack if you think swipe just doesn't do it. In terms of raw deals, if George was on 26 here, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't attack, because swipe would be just too punishing. But George is on 7.
Duncan opting not to attack in the end. He's gone with your way. Hate it when they do that.
What, going my way?
Yeah. Don't ruffle your jacket like you're some sort of businessman.
Right, yeah, something like that. I like ruffling my jacket. Makes me feel like some sort of businessman. Anyway.
Yeah, Duncan now will actually probably be pretty pleased with the play that's going to come out from George. There are no taunts, and very little is going to be put on the board. Most you can do is put Aya there.
Duncan taking a drink of his water there. You know what I say about players taking drinks of water during the game? It's always the person who thinks they've won the game that's drinking their water.
Wow! What a... right, so... there was an option. George could have just used that Wrath, right?
Yeah.
Conjunction, but he's made the play to just use 1, hope for a draw, and I think swipe was exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah, he had to go for multiple, like playing for his outs there. Multiple things, multiple lines of thought. That's the word I'm looking for.
Another Spreading Plague, another Behemoth. Those are the kind of things he would have been looking for. I guess he was forced into that decision, so it wasn't as incredible as I'm making it out to be. However, still good that he was able to pick
Got
up
to
that swipe.
spot that you've been forced there sometimes.
Yeah.
However, like you say, still 1 mana short of actually being able to do anything constructive. Hasn't got a taunt, hasn't got a heal, hasn't got damage. He needs a bit of a miracle right now. Malfurion might do it. That's not Malfurion. That's Mark of a Lotus, relation of Shaun of the Dead.
2-2 then, and what a perfect game to go to a best of 5 in Elimination Week. George or Duncan, who is going to be going home? It's going to feel bad whoever has to go home here, because these are 2 players that I would have liked to have seen at the finals. I know that might sound bad on other players, but...
No, I mean, we've been joking around, but let's face it, George is regarded as the best player in the country.
Yep.
We'd like to see him prove that. We'd like to see him show what he's got.
Yep.
And Duncan is very much, we say up-and-comer as a bit, not as derogatory, but he's more than that. He's like, got to the middle ground, now he's up and coming right at the top level.
Yeah. I mean, last season he was the new boy, right? He turned up, he smacked everyone around during the Swiss format.
He did.
And then he turned up to the live finals and he just flopped a little
And he had already lost 1 game out of the top 8, so when he got to the live finals, he only had 1 chance.
Yeah.
So we didn't see much of him. We didn't get a chance to really tell you much about Duncan.
And everyone was a little bit surprised by Green Sheep as well at those finals, because Green Sheep all season long had been bringing aggro.
All season long? He's been bringing it since 2014.
Exactly,
long.
and then he turned up at live finals and he brought control, and everyone was like, oh, that surprised us all, and then he won. You all right?
Yeah, I'm just going to cross my notes out for later. You just ruined them all?
Oh, sorry, we talked about Green Sheep a little bit too early.
Okay.
I hate it when that happens. Just go a little bit early.
Talk about him later.
We won't, but we will talk about the fact this is going to be a Druid mirror for the final game. Judging from what we've seen, decks look relatively
Duncan
similar.
had the Savage Roar.
Duncan
so if
did
he
have
does
Savage
get
Roar.
ahead on the Spreading Plague versus Spreading Plague thing, he might get something out of that. But we don't know if George has got maybe MC Tech.
True. We do have seen a lot
any tech, and there will be some.
Yeah. Well, the Skull King...
Oh, he's got
no, he won't. No.
Go, come on. I want to see you talk your way out of this.
No. He definitely doesn't have that card.
So we're looking for things with the word Jade or Crystal on them. They're the 2 words you're looking for in this matchup.
And both players not really finding the early game they would have liked. However, sometimes just having an ultimate infestation in hand is good, as providing you find a little bit of ramp later on.
George just took a massive lead. Until that point, it was basically exactly level. See from Duncan's face what he thinks of that.
Yeah, as soon as that wild growth comes out, that would be a bit annoying for Duncan, but...
The trouble is it spirals out of control so fast. Wild growth goes into Mire Keeper, then you get to Nourish, and suddenly everything is lovely. Meanwhile, Duncan's waiting for turn 4. That's so far away with no coin.
And this has been a thing that's been around for ages. As long as I can remember in Druid mirrors, who can get that wild growth, who can ramp up quicker. I remember back, this was ages ago, years ago, when Sotter was playing in a tournament. Yeah, exactly. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
And I remember him playing in a tournament, him getting the wild growth, getting the ramp, and the game had to be restarted. And then he didn't get... Yeah.
I was his manager at that.
You were his manager then.
That's a long story, guys. I'll tell it sometime. But yeah, and it's been a thing forever. But the really sad thing is that Druid mirrors, when you both get the same sort of ramp at the start, are really difficult and skillful. The trouble is, quite often this happens.
And yes.
Which isn't difficult or skillful at all at the moment, unless Duncan can catch up on mana. The difficulty and skill level of pressing this turn 10 card is on turn 5.
Yeah, I got my turn 10 card quicker than you got your turn 10 card. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom for Duncan. He still has ramp as well. He's still got possibilities of getting there. And actually, with this Jade Blossom, he's right there afterwards. He can follow up an ultimate infestation.
So now we've got a game of Hearthstone. They've both got to 10 on the same time, and now we get to see who can outmaneuver the other. George does have double Spreading Plague. Duncan only has the 1. We can see that. We don't know the deck list. We're just going on what we've seen already, of course.
And of course, there is a good chance that Duncan could draw into another ultimate infestation. But he will be overdrawing.
Kun into Medivh looks like good turn for next for George, though.
Yeah, that looks very nice.
If you put those words in a different order, that actually made sense.
Yes. It's okay, I knew what you meant. Sometimes I can be OAP translator.
Thanks.
If anyone needs me to repeat anything Neil has ever said, I do take payments via PayPal.
I'm just going to shake my head, sadly. Here comes George's big swing turn. And Duncan's not going to be able to replicate this next turn, so it's looking very good for George right now. Using the Wrath before the Medivh, he doesn't want no Poxy 2 drop, which is interesting, because he doesn't want to get it spreading plagued.
Yeah, not much. So now this is tough for Duncan. He can play Malfurion, he can put some taunts in the way. I don't think you can risk just putting poisonous spiders there.
If you're cycling this, what are you looking for?
A hope. Any sort of hope.
A new hope.
Savage Roar. Yeah, that tech's not going to be doing much.
Make some 1-2s. And ask your opponent to have double swipes and Wraths, but you know he has. I like this. He's going to make them into 2-3s, which makes it much harder to get rid of both. As it happens, George can and will.
Yeah, Wrath plus swipe.
It means
Also,
that one swipe wasn't enough, though, with that, with the
yep.
Atiesh.
Slowly but surely, Duncan looks like he is fading away out of this competition, as he is falling very much behind on board now. George in prime position to take this series and stay alive in the Hearthstone Premiership.
His first Hearthstone Premiership.
Yeah. New boy from last season versus new boy from this season. And potentially this could be it now. What can Duncan do? He doesn't even have a spreading plague to answer this either.
And, yeah.
Jade Behemoth plus Earthen Scales. No.
We didn't see a mind control tech in his deck. We only saw one plague. His deck doesn't seem to be particularly built for the mirror. Maybe he can sneak a Savage Roar. We didn't see that in the first game. He kept it in his hand right at the end when George...
This will just be lethal with the Ultimate Infestation off the top. Allows you to get rid of the Behemoth and put the rest of the damage into face. And GeorgeC will survive, but Duncan will be exiting the competition at 1-3 in the Swiss format. It's elimination week. It is a deadly week. It's going to be the week where we have to send someone home. That someone, first up, is going to be Duncan. But what a series we had.
That was a great series of Hearthstone, 2 of the best players in the UK, battling it out.